Oh, dogs being idiots. Sorry about that. So some examples of what you might find in my food bag. Tuna Creations. I didn't carry these a ton because they're not calorie dense. Like I could never rationalize, 70 calories for a 2.5, 3 ounce thing. The protein is good and they are delicious. Sometimes on most stretches I would carry one, and I might eat this in a tortilla, maybe with some cheese. It was cooler weather, like at the beginning and the end, or just eat it out of here with your spork. I like shake it like I don't know, like any other packet or whatever to get it down from the bottom. It's just like a natural tendency for me to pick it up and shake it. Ramen was an essential thing for me every day, and unlike most people, I didn't get sick of it. I found it very comforting. In the 100-mile wilderness, I actually ate it for breakfast and dinner, along with other things. Breakfast, I would usually have a jumbo or a honey bun and the ramen and coffee. And at dinner time, I would have the ramen. Sometimes I would add jerky to the ramen. Or in the 100-mile wilderness, I was having beef jerky with peanut butter squirted on it, like a little snack, like for the fat and the protein. It's good to have a lot of, or some extra fat at night will help you sleep and help you keep warm. Whereas in the morning time, I wanted mostly carbs, to get me going. And the honey bun had a little fat too to help satiate me. So that combo worked out really, really well for me. Also in here, there was always extra Ziploc bags. This is going to be nasty because it's been sitting in here for a month. This is I used a bamboo children's toothbrush. It was all wet when it went in there, so now it's showing signs of mildew and stuff. Sorry, it's just getting tossed in the trash. I'm not going to use it again. And another little bead bag. I had sent myself a resupply box to Shaw's with some of these little bags if I wanted to carry toothpaste like this or pills or whatever I needed them for. So for the 100-mile wilderness, at the end, I knew I didn't need a whole even small tube of toothpaste. I just put like a smudge of toothpaste in this bag and a flosser that I tried not to use more than once or twice, but sometimes like you just got to use what you got. I would rinse it well and then, toss it at the end of that section usually. Because it's hard, like sometimes you can't find floss or the flosses you like or something. So you find one thing that works, just clean it and use it again. Also in here, I got my stove. I have the OG MSR Pocket Rocket. I've had this and been using it for 10 years. It was on the long trail with me in 2021. I've done many, many trips in the White Mountains with it, and in Maine, Grafton Loop, everything. And this thing is still kicking. This is great. It's a great stove. There's a newer version out now, which I'm sure is equally as good. The secret to making these last is not to muscle it. This is all very small little pieces and things. You don't have to crank this thing hard. Nice and easy turns to open and close. Don't whip it out, nice and gentle. Be gentle with it. Make sure you thread it correctly. Don't force it. If it's not going, it's not threaded correctly. Back up and start again. Be nice to your stove. And it could last you too, 10 years. I keep it in this little piece of bubble wrap instead of the hard plastic container. I found that to be kind of hard to shove it in and out of there, and again, noisy and clunky, and just took up more space than it needed to. I like having this little bubble wrap too. If I'm using the stove for something, I can use this as a placemat. I can roll a tortilla on it or whatever. It's just a little thing that was just my for me on a picnic table or something to give me a little barrier from any germs like norovirus that might be on picnic tables. This is my first aid kit. I don't know why there's a bar in here I totally forgot about. It's funny. Let's see what else is in here. Wow. Hard time seeing. So this is another little bead bag. In here I have some gear patches, gear aid, like tenacious tape. There's an alcohol wipe in here too to use those patches. I have some water purification tabs as backup to my water filter, and boiling, of course, I could do. Just stuff I wanted to keep extra dry in this in this separate little bag. And this is wound seal. It's like a powder that, if you were really bleeding, you could pour this in there. It's not a very big one, but I kept it the whole time. I didn't need it, so I guess that was good that I didn't need it. Let's see what else we have in here. Leukotape. This is how much I ended up with after finishing. At times I carried that big ass roll. I mean, I taped myself extra before I leave town to use as much of it as possible, although it's still in your body, so it's all part of your weight, going up and down mountains. But it's a necessary evil. It's a little heavy when you start out with that roll, but Leukotape is good for everything. It sticks on your backpack. It is good on the backs of your heels to be proactive about irritation and stuff like that. So, you're not even going to get even a blister to start because you're going to have this tape back there. And it's like a little barrier between your skin, and whatever debris gets in there. I also put it over calluses as they were starting, just to, if they were getting really scratchy or whatever. I taped a couple of my toes together when I think I kind of broke one of my toes. I used it for chafing. When I'd finally get to a town and could take a shower and finally clean off all that salt and everything. Oh, I was chafing so badly in some sections. And I'd clean off, I'd air out as much as I could in the hotel or wherever I was staying. And then I would cover those areas with Leukotape before I'd leave town. Just, again, for that little barrier between the salt-soaked shoulder straps, for example, the hip belt. Oh, I got terrible chafing on my tailbone. I didn't get chafing on my inner thighs. That's where you always get it, right? I didn't get it there at all. It was just the salty spots on my backpack, my hip belt, on the sides. Yeah, a lot of different places. So Leukotape, highly recommended. Sticks for days through the rain and everything, unlike KT tape. It's just gonna fall off. I know they serve different purposes. I'm just giving it for an example. In this contact lens case, on one side I had Neosporin, and on the other side I had Vapor Rub. And the reason I chose to do it like this was, sometimes you find half-empty tubes of Neosporin. Somebody started new, maybe there's just a smidge left, or I didn't need that much. So if I just had to buy a tube, I would just squirt it in here and, give away the excess. The Vapor Rub was good for not only, if I was getting a little stuffed up. Some people actually use it to give them extra airflow when they're climbing mountains. They might put a little on. I used it mostly for itchy skin irritations. So like poison ivy, or what are those things? The really thorny bushes that are all on foot high. I can't remember right now. Anyway, I was always getting torn up by little thorny things, little scratchy things, poison ivy, bug bites. You put this Vapor Rub on there and they don't itch anymore. I don't know. I don't even know where I learned that. Probably some video or something. Works really well. I would carry a couple of Band-Aids usually, not really many. If I put a Band-Aid on, I'd usually put Leukotape over it, because these alone are not going to stay on in the world's nest anywhere for very long. This is a product called Nut Butter. It is not the kind you eat. It was made for men to help with their chafing issues. And I needed some, I was looking for Body Glide one time, and they didn't have that, but they had this. So I took it with me, and I used this more for recovery, at the end of the day, after I take off my pack, the chafing, before I got, tape on and figured all that out. I would use this to help stop the burning, because, you'd rinse it a little bit with a little water, and it just continued to burn all night long, and you couldn't rub up against it. You couldn't get comfortable sleeping. This stuff helped a lot with that, as with the Neosporin too. Sometimes I would use that. So I divided my pills up into little bags so I could keep track of them more. I don't really take prescription pills. These are just the pills that I carried with me more often than not. Melatonin, just got 4 left in here. These are Claritin. I put this little Claritin piece of paper here just so I remember what they were. I used these for after bee stings and, hornets and stuff like that. I got stung like 6 or 7 times, and I gave a couple to people too. They work just as well as Benadryl, taking down the swelling. Ibuprofen, regular ibuprofen. I didn't use a lot of ibuprofen, but I kept a few just in case. I think maybe I had like 6 at one time. Now I'm just down to 3. This is magnesium glycinate. This is like my secret weapon. It helps with muscle recovery and eliminates leg cramps and the restless legs that you get at the end of the night after an exerting day. It also helps you sleep. You take it at night with a lot of water, like a good cup of water at least. And it helps you poop too. It keeps you regular. It's like a bonus. Good stuff. Really, really consider it, especially if you're, 50 and up and your legs are just ridiculously killing you at the end of the day. And I had Tylenol too. I started carrying Tylenol extra strength in New England because everything started hurting extra. I would take 2 at night before I go to bed. And I don't know where my other baggie is, but the pain reliever, oh, there it is. The pain reliever I used most, oh, it's not, was Aleve. I got 1 pill in here. I had another baggie of that. For a while, I was taking Aleve in the morning and at night. 2 Aleve in the morning, 2 at night. It's not like ibuprofen when you take it like every 4 hours. 4 is really the maximum. You probably shouldn't do 4 every day for very long. But I found it, it took the sting out first thing in the morning. Sometimes my feet were killing me. My legs were hurt, just like from too much strain and effort. And it really helps like loosen me up and get me going in the morning. And at night, I needed something most nights, and it would help me sleep a little. When I started taking the Tylenol at night, I eased off the Aleve at night. So it was like one or the other. Also in here, there's another Gas X pill. And I don't know, coffee pack. I don't know why I have that in here. I'm trying to think of anything else I carried in my first aid kit along the way. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Leukotape serves all purposes for medical tape and all that stuff. All right, let's see what else we got in the food bag. Oh, we should talk about the food bag itself. This is a Sea to Summit lightweight 13-liter food bag. This one has like a plasticky feel versus the like Ultra-Sil fabric ones that they have. I never had a problem with this wetting out on me, even in pouring storms like in the Smokies and everything. Hailstorms, didn't have an issue. I've used the same bag on the long trail. I've had the same bag for, 7, 8, 9 years. I mean, I've used it for a super long time. Never had a problem. When I sleep with my food in my tent, I've never had a problem anything getting, like critters or anything, getting in it either. But I do wrap it up in my backpack and blah, blah, blah. But I'm just putting that out there, people, So also in here, I keep my electronics. It's just in a Ziploc bag. Stuff would be stuff like my headlamp. This is the Petzl Bindi. It's rechargeable. Little charging port. It has all the modes, the red light, the middle light mode, the bright light mode, low light mode. It's on this nice bungee cord. It's really easy to like put on and off. You can wear it as a necklace. You could hang it up somewhere. It's really nice and super lightweight. I also have one of the OG power banks by Powerbank brand. It used to be a very popular brand, so I had to put a sticker on it because everybody used to have them. Now nobody has this old brand. It still works pretty well. I got about 4 full charges on my iPhone with it. you do need some kind of power bank. I mean, 10,000 is kind of like the minimum. A lot of people carried a 20,000 milliamp bank. I added an extra 10,000 from Grafton Notch North, because I knew I needed it for the 100-mile wilderness. I knew that one wasn't gonna cut it. Make sure you have all your charge cords. You need a charge cord to charge the bank. You need cords that are compatible with the bank and your phone to charge the phone, to charge your headlamp. Little wired earbuds. And what else is in here? I had 2 different cords to charge my phone, one short and one long, which was good because the shorty ended up fraying and it wasn't working. Make sure you carry a little connector if you need it. These are just reminders. Test out your charging station with all of your devices before you leave. I have heard of people's phones not being compatible with certain power banks. The Nightcore power banks were probably the most popular one I saw this year on trail. Also, my spork for, I picked this one up around day 85. It's just from Walmart. It's a fork, this little kind of like knife edge on it, and a spoon. This is a great spork, really, really sturdy. I really like it a lot. I use it at work now. I just put it back in here for the demonstration. When I started the trail, I had a different spork, which I also really loved. And day 1, I sat on it on the picnic table and snapped it in half. And I was so bummed. I mean, day 1, right? So this man gave me, this man that was also staying there that night, section hiker, gave me an MRE spoon, one of those long brown spoons, and I used that spoon for 85 days on the trail. I really wanted it to make it the whole way. And me and some other trail friends would joke about, like, you still got the spoon? And, yeah, I still got the spoon. It was just a blessing that he gave me that spoon and that I could make it that long. It was really, really fun. What else we got in here? Just another bar. These are awesome, by the way. These Kodiak bars, really, really good. They don't taste like, you don't taste like the protein powder and so much in there. This is just leftover backup hand sanitizer, and ended up using everything I thought. Some extra Ziploc bags, always a good idea to have them. You need one for trash. I've obviously already dumped my trash, but like I could usually just use a quart-sized bag for trash. All your wrappers, just fold them up nicely and get them in there, seal it nice. Yeah, that's everything that's usually in my food bag. A lot more food, obviously. So I'm unrolling right now. I line my pack with a trash compactor bag. You find these with the regular trash bags. I like white because it's bright on the inside. It's a little bit thicker than a regular trash bag. This is made for those compactors, and when the machines, press down, they don't want, you need a bag that's sturdy, that's not just going to stretch out and break. So that's my waterproofing method. I don't put a pack cover on the outside of my pack. I've always used this compactor bag. This was suggested to me by other YouTubers or other backpackers, and it's always worked. I've never had a problem. Except occasionally you will get little holes in it just from smushing your gear in and stuff, or maybe you rubbed up against something the wrong way, or maybe a trekking pole poked it or whatever. So it's important to check it for holes every once in a while. I think I replaced it just once, more than halfway through, maybe in New York. I put a new one in there. So at the top of the inside of my liner, you notice my food bag was not in the liner. Everything that's in the liner is meant to not be touched by me during the day if I can't help it. I got my raincoat for an extra layer. Everything that's in the liner, I just want to keep dry and safe. I can access my food bag outside of the liner very easily. And this is just, dry and safe, keeping everything safe in there. So at the top, I got my little cook pot. This is a Toaks Titanium 500 milliliter, which is like 2 cups. Teeny weeny. but big enough for me, big enough to boil the water I need. Cover, and it does fit the small 4-ounce canister nesting in there. And here's a little tip. A little piece of fabric, like you might cut off of a quick dry cloth that's too big, really helps decrease the noise of this like rattling around in your pack. So I would put that in the bottom and then put this in there, and now hardly any noise. Sometimes I can get it even less noise than that. Another thing that works well in its place is an oatmeal packet wrapper, like after you've made your oatmeal in the morning. Another reason to put something between the pot and the fuel is the fuel canister sometimes gets condensation after you turn it off. And if you just put the canister in the pot, you might get a little rust ring down there without something. So, the little corner of a bandana or an old shirt, it doesn't have to be fancy. Every once in a while, I would throw that thing in the washing machine too when I do my wash in town. Just remember to take it out of there. I can't tell you how many times I started to boil water with that thing still in there, and I just forgot about it. So, especially maybe get a light color. I got blue and just blend it in. And for real, I made ramen one time with the little piece of cloth in there. I was eating it, and then I realized, it was in there. I still ate it. No big deal. Talenti jar. These are very common on trail, especially among people who cold soak. I didn't plan on cold soaking, but I thought maybe if I did, maybe I should work a Talenti jar into my gear. I didn't end up cold soaking. It really never appealed to me, and no big deal. But I did use it to keep some things dry and protected from blowing up in my bag. For example, if you had like packs of olive oil or something like that, you just want to keep it safe, right? You don't want that stuff blowing up in your pack or in your food bag. This is loose instant coffee. I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you, but almost every time I have a bag of coffee like this loose in my food bag, the Ziploc comes undone. I don't know why. I don't know what happened, how to get around that. So I started carrying it in the Talenti jar. This became like my little coffee jar, making coffee in the morning. Little lighter for my stove. I have an instant coffee packet left in here too. And then it was also a nice place to keep other things dry and safe from crushing in your backpack. Because there's a lot of things getting smooshed in there, right? So some things you might want to just keep, what do I have? Like some trinkets. I got like I didn't really carry like souvenirs or whatever. But towards the end, I started picking up a few things. Like I got some stickers from Shaw's Hostel in here. I bought some little AT earrings at Shaw's Hostel. Let's see if you can see them. See the little AT symbol there? Cute, huh? Some local artisan up there. My half-gallon challenge little spoon. I think this is my... Jeez Louise, I can't see anything, sorry. Oh, right, my camping pass for the White Mountains through Hiker Pass. And a tea bag, because, when they don't have a wrapper or anything on the outside, plus wrappers are extra weight, right? You got to protect them somehow. So I actually have it in this little baggie, and then in here in the bottom. All right, let's see what else we got in here. I'm going to start. So the rest of my pack on the inside of this liner is 4 items, and they're all vertically placed next to each other. So 4 bags, if you will, although my sleep pad is just rolled up into a cylinder shape. So 4 cylinders all next to each other. It works really well, and because like the clothing and the sleep quilt are all so fluffy, they kind of like fill in the gaps themselves within the bags. So just to start, this is another Sea to Summit stuff sack. This is an 8-liter. It's perfect for my 20-degree Enlightened Equipment quilt. I'm not going to take that out right now, but I started out with a 50-degree quilt. I just got this 20 for essentially Maine, and it needed its own bag. The 50-degree quilt that I had, I would put in the same bag as my clothing, the same stuff sack as my clothing, which I'll show you next. The 50-degree quilt got down to like a softball. I mean, it just smushed down to nothing. This is my clothes bag. It's another Cedar Summit. One of them's an ultra sil and one of them's a lightweight. I forget. Both 8 liters. So let's just take a look real quick at my clothes bag. Clothes weigh a lot, so you don't want to carry a lot of clothes, all right? This is my base layer. Like when I get to camp and I take off my shirt and I take off my sports bra, this is what I'm putting on. Unless it's super hot, then I'm just sitting there in my sports bra. It's a hoodie, Nike Pro. It's like that kind of nylon fabric. Quick dry, weighs nothing. Excellent for warmth, sun hoodie. I mean, it's black, it attracts the sun, but it works. I've used that same hoodie now for like 10 years. I use all the same gear over and over and over again. This is a Skeeta neck gaiter, fleece lined. I used it more on my head, over my ears. It's also really helpful for keeping your earplugs in on a cold night in a cold shelter with a whole bunch of people snoring. Put your earplugs in, put this thing in over your ears, gives you extra muffling and keeps those earplugs in place. This is good too. I have a True Buff. This is a lightweight one that I would use mostly as a pillowcase, but it was always there if I needed a little extra cover on my head or my neck on trail. I would knot one end, and at the end of the day, whatever clothes I wasn't wearing, I would stuff back in my sack. Here, roll it closed, put it in this buff, and then tie it in a knot on the other end. And now I got my little pillow and it's nice and soft, and instead of this other fabric. Good little piece of gear, weighs practically nothing. These are my sleep socks. These are a short version of Darn Toughs. I wore them only in the tent. Like if I had them on in the tent and had to pee, I did not leave my socks on and put on my wet shoes. I would take these off, put on my shoes, and go do what I had to do. Put them back on after I dried my feet. This is one of my favorite pieces of gear. The Montbell Puffy. I forget what the model is. I got a deal on this, again, like 10 years ago. On sale, it was like $250. It was super expensive. It's 1,000 fill down, which, if you know down, it's awesome. It squishes down to nothing. When you put it on, you're instantly warm. It does puff up a little bit. So right now it's just all flat. It's just like your sleep quilt or whatever. It needs some time to like get its loft together. Super lightweight. And it's like no nonsense. There's no pockets. There's no hood. Just the one zipper up the front. That's why these two pieces complement each other. I got the hood with this section, along with the neck gaiters and everything else that I can put over my head. That is my favorite puffy. I love it. I never wore it on trail, ever, ever, ever. Besides like worrying about it getting wet or torn up by branches, I worried about backpack damaging it and stuff. That was just for camp. It was the one piece that I always had dry, and I knew I could get warm if I needed it. I carried this silk sleeping bag liner. This kind of brand is popular amongst people traveling, like, Europe, hostels and stuff like that. It only weighs 3 ounces. Did I say that? It's silk. In the really, really hot of the summer, I just used this and not my 50-degree quilt. When it got really cold, I would get in this. Well, I did it both ways. I slept in this with my quilt over me, and then if it was wet, I think I put this over my quilt, but then I realized I probably wasn't getting the loft. Anyway, there's a lot of things you can do with this. It also makes a great laundry bag when you're gathering up your stuff, because you can throw everything in there and just kind of throw it over your shoulder like a hobo. You could use it in hostels if you're worried about the bunks being dirty. Really handy. If I wasn't using it, it went into my pillow stuff sack. Perfect. What else is in there? Oh. Long underwear. These are silk long underwear. I forget where I got them. Don't ask me. Again, I've had them for like 10 years. They were ripped up to start with. They got a little more ripped up on this trip. They're totally see-through. So you're not like putting these on in the shelter and walking around, you know, in front of everybody. But when you get out of your wet shorts and you're underneath your quilt and you just need a little extra warmth and something dry, these are perfect. Super lightweight. Look at silk long underwear. It's really an underused product, I think. And then one more pair of Darn Toughs. I rotated 2 pairs of Darn Toughs for the most part. At one point I carried 3 because I was having a lot of foot irritation, changing my socks more. I think I'd run out of Leukotape for those that stretch, and I couldn't find it. You can't always find Leukotape everywhere. So 2 pairs, Darn Toughs. I think it's called the Micro Crew size. They're all merino wool. They don't smell as bad as other fabrics. They dry pretty quick, especially when they're on your feet. You want something to dry faster? Put it on your body. Your body heat will dry it faster. My little tip. And that's it, people. There was no changes of clothes or anything. I wore the same clothes for the whole hike. I got those right here. These are like from Kohl's. I mean, it's like tech gear shorts. I've worn these same shorts on all my backpacking trips for the last 10 years. I couldn't believe I never tore the bottom on them. Drawstring is great because as you're losing weight, you need to keep those shorts up or else they're going to be falling off you within the first couple of weeks. Pockets, of course, you know, whatever works for you, whatever you need. These shorts have been awesome. And this shirt is just, again, I think it's tech gear. I took all the tags off everything. Dry quick fabric, very lightweight. I love this shirt and I continue to wear it even though it's gross. I mean, it's been clean now, but I've worn it so many years, but it seems to be like the lightest, and I don't get as overheated in it as I do any other shirt. I feel like it just feels like a second skin to me. I'm used to it now. Also on my feet, just while we're talking clothing, I wore Hoka Speed Goat 6s. The 6s are coming to an end, I guess. 7s are being released in 2026. But excellent vibrant grip sole, good support. I didn't want to do zero drop and all that with ultras and stuff like that. I've worn Hoka Speed Goats for several years now, through the White Mountains. When I did the New Hampshire 48, they served me well. I knew they would serve me well on the AT too. They dry pretty quick. Like I said, I didn't bring camp shoes, but instead at the end of the day, I would really make a point of loosening these up so that they could dry out and I could slip my feet in and out of them if I needed to get out of the tent and go to the bathroom or get out of the shelter or whatever. They work great as slippers. You don't need camp shoes. Save yourself the weight. I'll point out too, I did the runner's loop. You should look that up on YouTube. It helps keep lock the heel in place so you get less irritation, less movement back there. I never had an issue with my shoes like falling off or rubbing or anything back there. Never a problem. This is my tent. The tent stuff sack's a little worse for wear. This is the Gossamer Gear, the one. It weighs 17 ounces, or at least with the stakes I swapped in, I think it's at 17 ounces. It's a trekking pole tent, super lightweight, roomy enough that I could have my pack next to me while I was on my sleep pad. I usually did have it behind my head or under my head, but just for an example, I could sit up, waist high anyway, and still have some clearance over my head. It does have a vestibule, which I cooked in often. I've used this tent This same tent was on the long trail with me in 2021. The only thing that started to fail, I started to get some seam leakage, but I think that's just wear and tear from being stuffed in and out of the sack so many times. I probably could have hit it with some more seam sealant or something, but this is an awesome tent. And when I was in a shelter and wasn't using my tent, it's a great pillow, or it goes under your knees for a little support back there so your legs aren't lying flat. I really love this tent. I love this tent. It might be ready to retire this one, but I'm probably going to buy another one. I love the Gossamer Gear, the 110. Good stuff. And it's not wicked expensive. It's not $400 like some of the other lightweight tents. This is the sleep pad that I ended up using from Connecticut. Was it Connecticut? No, I think it was still Virginia. Virginia North. I started out with the Climate Static V2. And it was going to be my first big trip with that pad. I usually use one of the Thermarest super ultra light, Uber Light, or the yellow crunchy one, that everyone has. I started with the Climate Static V2. I was excited about it having 0 R value because I didn't want the reflective heat back on me through the heat of the summer. I liked how it had like little divots in it so you could like catch a toe or whatever, like I don't know, so you didn't feel like you were going to fall off as much. And it worked really, really well for me until it got a hole, and I couldn't find the hole, and I couldn't patch it or anything. So the very next town I was in, I was lucky there was an outfitter, and they had exactly 2 sleep pads for sale. Like, they hadn't restocked anything by the time I went through there. So this is a very old model of a Thermarest. It's called the Venture. It's thick. It's a big rectangle. There's really nothing lightweight about it. It's 1 pound, 3 ounces. It's not terrible, right? I think when I started having to use this, I took out a few like stupid things in my pack that I didn't need. Maybe I swapped out a heavy carabiner for a lighter one, just to like make up some weight. I love this pad. I had several opportunities to swap in a lightweight pad when I met up with my husband or at other outfitters, and I ended up keeping it because I slept like a baby because it was so big and roomy and glorious, I mean, sometimes I think we all get so worried about the pack weight that we forget about our comfort, and sleeping is so important, especially on a long trail like this. I am psyched that I had this pad. And I remember talking to my husband, and he's like, just try it, we can order you something or send you something else or send you one of your other pads. And if I'm sleeping, it's a good pad, right? That's how I look at it. It's excellent pad. All the Thermarest pads are great, of great quality, and they last a long time, and they stand by everything with a good warranty and stuff. But I like that pad. It was just funny how it came about. Like, sometimes, you damage your gear and you get to town and you really have no choice or very little choices on what you're going to replace it with. It's about what's available, or you go without until you get to another outfitter. And by the time you're halfway up the trail, the outfitters are few and far between. Like, there are a ton in the South, so you have a lot of opportunities to change up your gear, swap out things that aren't working for you. But as you get more north, it's harder and harder to find one. And you might be in a situation where, you're going to have to get an Uber or a shuttle to drive you like 40 miles someplace sometimes. I've heard about people doing that, having to take an entire day off a trail just to get a sleep pad, So that is it for inside the liner. There's one other section inside the pack. The hydration sleeve. This pocket where if you were using a hydration bladder, you would put it in there. Well, I just kept a few things handy in there. At the very, very top of it, I kept this little bubble wrap pocket with my glasses. I didn't hike with my glasses on, so I wanted someplace safe for them. And after all my gear was in there, it was the last thing I put in there, so it rested right at the top of that little pocket. Never had a problem with damaging them or anything, and it was pretty easy to get at them if I needed to. I had all the text size and everything cranked up on my phone, so I didn't need my glasses to read my phone. But otherwise, if I was looking at a map or a book or something, forget about it. And then also in there, I got this 3-liter platypus flask, whatever you want to call it. This I would use mostly at camp at the end of the night, so I could make one trip for water, for dinner, for breakfast, to get me started the next day. A couple of times, like through Pennsylvania or New York, I had to actually fill this with water and carry it for up to, one time was 4 miles, in addition to my other bottles, because there was no water sources and I wanted to make more miles that night, which made my pack super, super heavy. But I highly recommend, like, any through hike you're on, you need a big water receptacle to carry that extra water if you need it, but mostly at camp, that's where it makes the big difference. Right now, you out there, like I've had this platypus again for a decade. It still served me well, no leaks, really held up. You see a lot of the Canucks now, and some of them have, you know, things that, I mean, they connect with the Sawyer filter, and you can do like a total gravity filter system, and it works really well. But the Canuck on its own doesn't stand up, it's floppy, it's very hard to pour water from it. When this is full, it'll actually like spread out and stand up on its own, and that came in handy for a lot of different reasons, a lot of different times. Sometimes I had to scoop water into it. I could actually get this thing to stand up while I was using my hands to like scoop the water and balance on a rock or whatever. Have a 2 or 3 liter flask for extra water. It's very important. Sea to Summit neck wallet. This was something so that when I went to town, I had a place to securely put my phone. Like if I was in town, I dropped my pack somewhere and I was just out and about, you know, doing errands or whatever, I could put my phone in here. I could, you know, have some place to put my credit cards, and so I carried 1 credit card, 1 debit card, my license, and my health insurance card. And I kept those in a little plastic baggie inside of here. And it gave me a place to, I don't know, if you, well, again, when you're out and about and you might pick up a little something, or you get a receipt or whatever until you throw it out later. I don't know. It was just nice to have a little someplace to put something. And I just wore it like as a purse, you know, walking around town. And my tent stakes I keep in that little pocket too. I don't know why I started doing that. I've been doing it that way for years and years before this trip. So these are Toke's titanium tent stakes. Oh, I pulled out a straight one. Most of them are pretty wrecked. Super lightweight. Toke's is known for titanium, ultralight stuff for backpacking. Oh, maybe it is a little dinged up. They're not awesome when the ground is really dense or gravelly. That's how some of them got bent up pretty good. I managed to come home with all 12 of them, which I'm amazed. I also picked up a couple of other stakes along the way. People would leave them in tent sites, and I knew having this one big honking one really helped for anchoring one side of my tent. I came to use it in that section, that part, all on that side all the time. And this one other little lightweight one. You know, sometimes you might find things along the trail that would be handy to you, and you don't want to add to your packaway, but a little stake, you know, a little something. I think my tent had collapsed on me one of the nights prior to that, and then this tent stake was left in one of the sites that I stayed at, and I figured, perfect timing. What else is in here? More Ziploc bags. Oh, these are little soap sheets. You know, those little sheets that dissolve in your hands when you add water. Very handy. Something to remember, norovirus runs rampant on the trail, and hand sanitizer does not stop the germs. You need actual soap. This was my bear bag hanging kit. This is all that's left of it. And lastly in my pack is my hitchhiking sign. It says trail on one side and town on the other. And, you know, I would just hold this out, put my thumb up. Sometimes I'd twirl my trekking pole or something to get people's attention. But almost everyone made a comment that seeing my sign helped them put 2 and 2 together, that I was a Appalachian Trail through hiker trying to get to town or trying to get back to trail, instead of just like a vagrant, or, you know, sometimes they need, like, they're speeding by so quickly, they need a clue. And holding your trekking poles is another good tip for hitchhiking too, because it makes you look more like a hiker than, again, like a vagrant or someone just looking for a ride for another reason. But put it in a little plastic sheet, just a piece of paper. I've had the same sign for, again, like 10 years. I've been using it, kept it safe. So that's it, people. That's everything that was in my pack. My pack weight ranged from 11 to 12 pounds from my base weight. Obviously closer to the 12 once I picked up that heavy-duty, luxurious sleeping pad. With food and water, I was certainly at 20 pounds or more sometimes. Water, 2 pounds for a liter adds up very, very quickly. I carried the 40 ounces of water pretty regularly, so that wasn't too much, but I felt the difference as those bottles were getting lighter too. Food, I didn't carry enough calories because food was just so freaking heavy. And honestly, you can't carry 4,000 calories a day. It's impossible unless you had a humongous pack, and it would be so freaking heavy. I don't know any thru hiker that was carrying enough calories that we were burning. I mean, most of us were lucky if we were carrying for 2,000 calories a day. Keep your food choices light, you know, do the best you can, carry as much as you can. If you're on a shorter section, maybe you carry a little extra food, you know, up those calories for those couple of days because you have a little more space. But yeah, that's in my pack. If you have any questions, let me know. I can't really tell you where I got a lot of this stuff, again, because most of it's been like over a decade. Oh, I forgot my little hat. Oh, one of my favorite pieces of gear. This is the company Cool, Kuhl, little quick dry runner's cap. What's great about this is this little clasp. Makes it super easy to put it on and off, like you could hang it off your pack. Nice little adjuster strap, better than the Velcro, which can sometimes go bad or just fall off. Great cap. You're gonna need some kind of a brimmed cap on trail, not only for sun coverage, helps keep the rain off your face, and with the bug net, you need something to keep the bug net from being right up against your nose. Another little thing to think about, people. So that'll do it. Let me know if you have any questions or any other videos I should make. I'm happy to. I do have a couple of ideas, but I'm curious what you all think. All right, happy trails.